Hello. This video is about how to correctly plan home fruit tree orchard, which points to take into the consideration. So you can see I already started planting, but took me a long time to design which fruit trees to plant and where. So number one is to consider the plot orientation and slope. So that's for the purposes of both water drainage and sunlight. So I have a southern facing slope. I know that at the back of the slope I'm planting taller trees, and at the front of the slope I'm planting shorter trees, so that the southernmost trees don't shade out the trees behind. Also on the southern facing slope, the fruit trees may wake up earlier in the spring, so you have to consider the varieties to plant. The water drainage, I have a lower area here. So for the water drainage, where there is more moisture, I planted the trees that like more moisture, for example pears or quince. The majority of fruit trees like well-drained, fertile soils in plenty of sunlight with wind protection, but in real-life situations it's difficult to find areas like that, so you have to adjust. For the wind protection, I have a lot of winds coming from the southern and western sides, and that is a big problem, but I can plant some trees that can withstand wind in that area, and more delicate trees which are sensitive to winds I will plant deeper. Next consideration is soil type. That goes about the groundwater levels, as well as soil composition, if it's fertile or clay or sand. You have to think which varieties you can plant there, or how you can amend the soil pH. You have to think about the kind of rootstock to get for those specific soil conditions. And for example, here I have the lower spot where there is some water accumulating. So this tree I planted above the ground level, so it's on a little hill, so this to prevent the tree roots from rotting. And again, this is the pear, and pears like water and can tolerate a lot of water. Next one and most fun one is the tree varieties. So of course you think which kind of trees you want. It's better to have different varieties mixed with each other, polyculture versus one variety, for example just all apples, because you're gonna get different varieties of fruit, of course, and disease is not going to spread between different varieties as eagerly as it will spread between the same variety. Also, you have to think about various harvest times. So for example, if you get 3 apples, it's better to get apples that produce fruit in different months, and you can store some fruit over the winter and eat some fruit at the end of the summer. Also, bloom time of the particular varieties is important. For example, where we live in Michigan, zone 6, we still get late frosts, so we don't want varieties that bloom early, because that can negatively affect the crop. And when you pick a variety, you need to know if it requires pollinator. The majority of fruit trees do require pollinators, so you have to plant 2 different apple varieties, or 2 different pear varieties. Some of the trees are self-pollinating, but still they will produce fruits better if they have similar variety next to them. For tree grouping is the next point to take in consideration. Some trees just don't like being next to each other, and probably everybody knows about the walnut tree, that the roots produce substance that will inhibit the growth of all other trees around it. So walnut trees have to be planted separately. I put a lot of research and design on what to plant next to what, because some trees compete with each other or produce substances. For example, apricots don't like other trees around. Their roots produce some substances that will inhibit the growth of other trees, so it's better to plant them separately. Next is space between the trees. For this, you have to know the size, potential size of the adult tree, and if, for example, tree is 15 foot tall, it's going to be approximately 15 foot wide. So the next tree you have to plant about 15 foot from each other, so that the leaves, the branches of those two neighboring trees don't touch each other. I ordered a lot of trees on the dwarf rootstock so that I can fit more into the garden, but still it will require pruning, and with pruning you can achieve the desired size of the tree. So even the trees that are not on the dwarfing rootstock, you can keep them pretty small size in the backyard orchard, but it will require more work. And the next thing to take in consideration is the correct planting. So planting time right now, it's end of April, so the trees that I got, they were bare root, dormant trees, and the weather conditions allow to plant them. Some trees I received from the nursery already have leaves, so it's a little bit cold to plant, so I'm still waiting for the weather to warm up, so past the last frost, before I plant them. And also the whole technique of planting, that will be a separate video. And this is how to prepare the hole, and the hole for the tree planting hole has to be prepared in advance so that it has time to settle down. Otherwise, if you plant the tree right away in a new hole, once the ground settles, it can pull the tree down, and it's very important not to plant the tree too deep. One more word about the fruit trees that I got. I got these particular ones from the Rain Tree Nursery, and I was very happy with what I got in the mail. They were very nicely packed and shipped. They shipped them dormant, bare root. All the long roots were cut. Everything was clean, nothing got damaged, and you can see the trees are pretty developed. They're grafted on the rootstocks. They have a lot of interesting varieties that you can pick off, so I'm very hopeful with these fruits that we just recently planted. Thank you for watching.